Hey shady baby, I'm hot like the prodigal son. Big a battle, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and flower, you're the chosen one. Well, your left hand's free, and your right hand grip. With another left hand, watch his right hand slip. Schwartz is gone. Oh,
Hello and welcome to this edition of Today at the Races, of Black-Eyed Susan Day edition. Gabby Gaudette joined by Kate and Bradar, the ultimate girls' day out.
And boy, jam-packed with action, beautiful conditions, a lot of betting options. This is going to be a fun day.
It's going to be a great day, and looking at those betting options that you just alluded to as well, we have a couple of guarantees, and in the Rainbow Six, a 10-cent wager, 10-cent Rainbow Six, which does start in race 6 on the 14 race program, $100,000 guarantee to the single winning ticket.
Yeah, that's going to be a little different than days past, but again, to hit the Rainbow Six, you have to be the sole ticket holder that has correctly selected winners of races 6 through 11. If you are the only one, $100,000. Otherwise, you share in a consolation. This is a great time to jump in as it's a 10-cent minimum. And then, of course, we have a pick 5 as well with a guarantee. That starts on race 7, and that has produced some of the best payoffs and some of the biggest pools and most excitement of the meet.
And 12% industry low takeout in that 50-cent pick 5. And obviously on Friday, Black-Eyed Susan Day, we have a $250,000 guarantee, races 7 through 11. And as you said, Caton, very, very popular wager throughout the course of the meet thus far. And I'm going to imagine it's going to be very popular on Black-Eyed Susan Day and Preakness Day.
With the industry low takeout of 12%, you really have a chance to make up some good money here. And for a 50-cent minimum, there's a lot of ways to play it. We're going to spell out some of the horses that might be of interest in those types of wagers, as well as the guarantees on the pick 4s. We have 2 of those a little later on. As we go through the card, we'll get to them. But we are expecting absolutely beautiful conditions for the day.
Beautiful conditions. The protected forecast actually is getting to the high of 75, sunny, partly cloudy actually, but
little breezy like today.
A little breezy. You couldn't ask for better conditions on Friday, so great races, and hopefully we will be fast and firm on the Friday race card. 14 races with a first-time post at 12 noon.
You see those are projected conditions, and hopefully as we get into it, a neutral playing field that we've seen all meet long for the first race, which I thought was a really tough way to start out the day, Gabby, but a lot of fun when we look at some maidens, kind of aspiring horses looking for their first win, going 5 furlongs on the turf, and a lot of different directions you can go in this race.
A lot of different directions here with this maiden special weight. 5 furlongs on the turf, and I actually really like the 9 Dunn Hall. This is going to be the top selection, and the connections kind of, they started him out on the turf, then they decided to go to the main track last time out, but a very troubled trip in debut sprinting on the turf, and we'll actually take a look at that video spotlight replay. In his first ever performance there, going the 5 furlongs, he was closing from off the pace. In this video spotlight, definitely want to show
take a look at it with the glasses on for sure. Yeah, I'm curious to see this one because you know, obviously on the turf and he gets the experience, but he didn't have the easiest of trips and still was able to come up with a very nice performance.
As you can see, he steadied late, and he still looks like he's a little bit on the green side. He keeps lugging in a little bit, giving Cecily Evans a little bit of a hard time there. And if he could just maintain a straight path, honestly, I do think that if you looked at the race as a whole, he did seem like he should have been the winner in that race.
Well, I made him one of my top contenders, but I actually looked to the 10 on the outside pool winner as the horse to beat. He was the beaten favorite the last time he ran at Pimlico on the turf, but I think he had to battle just a little bit. He was shipping in for that one, had finished second prior to that. I think he's getting a little better with every race, and he'll benefit and move forward off that win for a high percentage trainer in Alan Goldberg. Like his pedigree, and I actually like that he draws to the outside. I think he'll have kind of clear run on the leaders and really have a dream trip.
Looks like we agree on the exacta, at least a different order there, but 2 very legitimate horses. We'll move on to the second race on the 14 race program. A nice A other than at 1 1/16 out on the main track here for fillies and mares. And who'd you land on here,
Well, I
Kaiten?
think we boiled it down to the same two horses in Allowance Company. It's a kind of, I think, either Todd Pletcher shipping in with the 8, Don't Forget About Me, or Samantha Nicole for Kieran McLaughlin. Both trainers bringing several horses in over the weekend from New York, and I think well positioned to run big races. I liked the 7, Samantha Nicole. Her win in Maiden Company was pretty impressive, albeit against an easy field. It was a compact group. She kind of had the dream trip, everything her own way, but it was at a mile and an eighth, and she shortens up here. I like that angle. Kieran wins about 28% when the horses have won last time out. So even though it's a step up in company, I think this is a very nice filly.
And the barn can do nothing wrong as of late, has been firing on all cylinders pretty much throughout the country. But looking at the projected pace as well, we have a horse who's getting at a distance with the 6th Great Start who may show some speed. And we also have Don't Forget About Me, who did go gate to wire last time out, and came in Croc, who's going a mile and a 16th. I think it's going to be a pretty lively pace, Kaiten. And I like the fact that Samantha Nicole has showed that she's a little bit versatile. She has tactical positional speed.
I really think you can boil it down to those two fillies, and I think pace-wise it does favor Samantha Nicole.
Race 3, another allowance, but on the turf, we're going out to the turf course at 5 furlongs here, and I landed on a horse that was way to the outside, and that is Conscience for trainer Tom Proctor. Already 2 victories so far at the meet out of 4 starts. He recently relocated to Fair Hill, so he does have a barn throughout the Mid-Atlantic, and I went to this horse as the top selection here, coming out of that race last time out behind U.S. Citizen. That horse actually did go on to win 2 other than, although it was via disqualification.
Gabby, a lot of these races that I've seen so far, and you well know, have been won by horses who have tactical speed, and Conscience definitely has that. Comes in for Tom Proctor with one of Proctor's main go-to riders, a young name who'll be riding here at Pimlico for one of the first times, if not the first time, but that's Drayden Van Dyke. And I've seen him in action ship into other tracks. He's extremely good, particularly on the grass, and I think he is well mounted on Conscience, who draws well to the outside, has tactical speed, and a really good race under his belt back at Santa Anita. The California form usually holds up wherever they go, so he just has to run a little bit better. I was a little concerned that he's going to get some pressure early on, and that if that happens, it might set up for a horse a little off the pace, like the 11 Sterling's Maximus, but to me, this is Conscience's race to win or lose.
I agree with you. He's got the tactical speed. He has the outside post, and he could pressure anyone who, if someone does break a little bit sharper than he to his inside. I think he really has everything going his way for this race. I did use a closer in the mix, and that is the 1 Mabroom. Love the fact that Trevor McCarthy is now aboard. I'm a little apprehensive at the 5 furlongs. It seems like the 5.5 furlongs makes all the difference for Mabroom, but I do really like him in that spot as well. We'll move on to the 4th race, a maiden special weight, 5.5 furlongs onto the main track here. And Kaiten, I think this is one of the trickier races on the program, maiden special weight here for 3-year-old fillies.
I don't know if we agree on anything in this race as far as who to go, and that tells you might want to go deep if you're playing some of the exotic wagers, multi-race wagers, that is. In the end, I look to a horse who has the benefit of a race over the track. That is Saturday's Rain, and it was the main track as opposed to the turf. A few of the other contenders are coming in turf to dirt, but I prefer this one for Vernon Allison, who has a very good record second time out. I kind of think this might have been the type of filly that just needed that one race and can improve a lot. I like that Victor Carrasco sticks with her. Now, she didn't show a whole lot of run, just a little bit of run early, but she's worked well since then, and percentage-wise, 25% winner second time out for this trainer, who's a pretty high percentage trainer in his own right. So this is sort of wide open. You can make a case for anybody in here. I thought the 1 on the rail, Tis Emily and Jill, was kind of interesting. I don't like the post. Unfortunately, she's drawn it for the second straight time. Second time starter was second in her debut, but didn't seem to be finishing as well as I would have liked, and I think she's going to be under pressure again from the inside. And then a lot of different directions you can go for the show spot. In the end, I thought that maybe the first timer Clock Struck 12 was interesting with some good works, or the 6 Southern Portrait for Hot Ollie Figgins' barn.
Well, looking at the 1, Tis Emily and Jill, she has a lot of early speed, natural early speed. Mallory Strandberg was aboard in debut, and she went straight to the lead. But again, in this particular race, I do think that she's going to have a little bit of pressure from the 8 Colonel Melissa. I like the 4 Saturday's Rain. I like liked her in debut, and she kind of disappointed, but she could be one that fires second time out. I did go to the turf to dirt angle, the 2 Parigi Moon for trainer Rick Silliman. I just really like her workouts on the main track. I'm not thoroughly convinced that she's a turf horse, and now with one under her belt, she definitely got a lot of fitness out of that performance, and altogether, it wasn't a subpar performance in my opinion. It was a solid group of maiden 25s for that particular condition that day, and again, she is stepping up in class, the maiden special weight company, but perhaps the connections just think she's a little bit better on the dirt, and I love the fact that Horacio Caramanos sticks with her second start. So I did use the 5 Poco Loco, the first time starter for trainer Dylan Smith, another one who has a very impressive work tab in the morning. She's actually by Deputy Storm out of a Valley Crossing mare. The mare did the majority of her success on the turf course, but Dylan Smith can really get horses ready off of a layoff or even first time starters. So I'm going to the 5 Poco Loco in the exacta.
Dickie Smalls, former assistant, a really good horsewoman in her own right.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the 5th race, first stakes action on the card, the Hilltop, going 1 1/16 on the turf course. And I know you particularly like a certain horse in here,
This
Kaiten.
is one of my best bets of the day, Ayati, although that's not to say it's an easy spot at all. Ayati debuted at Gulfstream Park in maiden special weight and beat a horse, it's only Acting Dad, who came back to win next start out, but it was the way that she did it from off the pace with a very explosive turn of foot on a course that the majority of speed horses were really carrying their speed. I thought she was a little up against it the way the course was playing and the way she ran first time out. Now, she was expected to win, but I thought she beat a very good field and did it exactly the right way. She kind of validated that opinion when she was second in Allowance Company and only her second start on a soft turf course. I think she improves with firmer going that she's likely to get. And you see she finished second behind the horse who beat her the time before. So again, that quality, that company is bearing out as they continue to race. I think she fits in very nicely here, and a lot of respect for Chad Brown, who I think does great work, particularly with young horses and fillies in here. You get Javier Castellano. So some of the top connections in the country. I'm not in love with the post position, but with her style, I don't think it'll be a problem.
Speaking of Chad Brown doing well with fillies too, he's very good on the turf
Right.
as well, and that's exactly the spot for the one Ayati. And there's another horse who comes out of similar performances as Ayati, and that's C'est Moi for Jonathan Shepard. And I did watch the replay on the 10th of April, that one at Keeneland on the soft going, and I thought that C'est Moi actually had a little bit more trouble to overcome, whereas Ayati was kind of perched outside and came closing. But once they finally kind of met strides, you could see that Ayati was covering more ground than C'est Moi. So I do think that that's kind of a negative and an advantage. I would definitely take a look at that most recent performance from C'est Moi out of town at Keeneland. But I did go to the 10 Miss Temple sitting. I think we have dueling best bets here, Kaiten.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how this race shakes out, because I just think that this is such a progressive filly. You know, last time out, second behind Lady Eli, arguably one of the best 3-year-old fillies in the turf fillies in the country, if not even older.
She's a nice filly.
Mare.
She
She's
really
a very,
is.
very nice filly. And I actually got a chance to see that most recent workout leading into today's performance at 10 Miss Temple City, and she actually worked with Donworth in a very, very sharp breeze. So I was impressed by the breeze. I've been impressed by her performances leading into this race, and she's going to be my best bet, the 10 Miss Temple City in the Hilltop. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we will dive right into the 10-cent Rainbow Six. Again, it does start on race 6 of this 14 race card on Black-Eyed Susan Day.
This is a moment of history.
Treat yourself like royalty when wagering on the Sport of Kings with ExpressBet. ExpressBet is the legal, fast, and secure way to bet on over 300 tracks around the world. No other website offers you greater value with 100% free wagering, past performances, video replays, and daily picks. Sign up today to receive a bonus and start earning points with XP Rewards. Earn even more when you refer your friends. It's the most rewarding experience in racing. ExpressBet, your way to play.
Welcome back to Today at the Races. Gabby Gaudet alongside Kaiten Bradar, and we're going through this Black-Eyed Susan Day card, and it's going to really, really get tough as we start off the 10-cent Rainbow Six.
It is. We had to roll right along with the 14 races, but this, again, has a guarantee, 10-cent minimum, and the guarantee of $100,000 if you are the only person to correctly have that winning ticket. If not, you're still going to be well rewarded, and in particular in the 6th race, really, really tough to separate. I went to the 9, Regal let's see, Regal Soldier, who is a horse that I really actually think benefits from the pace scenario as much as anything. This is one of the few that can really sit a stalking trip. Has been knocking on the door at this level. Now you could argue that he's had plenty of opportunities to win the allowance condition. At the same time, I think he's faced some tough company, and I think that the race really suits him better. He's never run a bad race at this level, and perhaps his last was his best. Finished second, beaten a length and a half. I really think he can improve off that effort.
Well, it's a 10-cent wager, so you can use as
Definitely
many
throw
horses
him
as
in.
you want to. And I do really like the 4 American Progress. I'm going to be honest with you, Caitlin. I had a little bit of a tough time with this race because I think there's multiple different ways to go. You could have gone to the 2 Watery Moon, the 4 American Progress, or even the 5 Chief of Command, and you don't even agree with half of those as well. So it's a really, really good handicapping race. I tipped the hat to the 4 American Progress here for Rudy Rodriguez. He has a familiarity with this particular course. Last time out did get the victory over the Pimlico surface. Now, albeit it was against Starter 35 Company, stepping up in classes is going to be a little bit of a tougher condition for this one. But I do like the fact that he showed a different dimension last time out. He rated and then kind of picked up the pieces and did go on to draw from the field by 3 1/4 lengths under Victor Carrasco. So the fact that he did show that dimension coming in fresh, I like the fact that second time off the freshening, perhaps he can stalk behind some of the pace setters, because I think it's going to be a pretty lively pace.
I agree. I'm concerned too. The entry for Midwest is always a force to be reckoned with in here. Didn't use him in my top selections because I'm concerned about the pace scenario. Again, both Seventh Son and Entry Mate Right on Course seem to like to be in the mix, and I think there's a lot of speed in here, but a lot of different directions you can go in the race, and this is a race that I think if you're playing the Rainbow Six, you want to go as deeply as you can.
If you like a little bit of a price here, I didn't use him in the top 3 either, but one to pick up the pieces late on the turnback could be the 8 Admiral's War Chest. Has been going a longer distances, but some of his best range between the 7 furlongs, so perhaps one to use into the ticket. But I think that's a leg of the sequence that you might want to use a couple different horses in. We'll move on to the 7th race in a other than condition at 1 1/16 on the turf course. Again, this is the start of the 50-cent pick 5, and we do have a guarantee of $250,000.
You know, this one is a race where I didn't have a strong opinion. I really felt that you could narrow it down maybe to 3 or 4 contenders, but any one of them with the right trip could get this job done. In the end, the 6 Mobilized for Shug McGaughey, he got the edge for me to kick off this pick 5, but I would make a case for any number of other horses in here. Mobilize is fresh. Shug McGaughey shipping in a Hall of Fame conditioner, and he has shipped in with success. The horse is very good at the distance. I think stalking-wise can build off a 3rd place finish at Gulfstream Park. That was a pretty tough group of horses that Mobilize ran with, and from an outside post that was a little bit tricky, ran credibly, I think. Maybe meets a little bit easier in this one, and that's why I gave him the edge.
I think the one filly to beat is the 8 Charm City Girl. On paper, she does seem the one to beat, coming in for Grand Motion and Sagamore. And, you know, a pair of seconds last time out, but the last second was against Stakes Company and the Desert Vixen at Monmouth. She closed from off the pace, a very impressive performance. But, again, I'm trying to beat her, although she does seem to be very talented, and Graham is very good with fillies coming off a layoff. I really was impressed by the 10 Silverville's performance last time out, and we'll actually take a look at that victory against Maiden Special Weight Company. Now she's wheeling back relatively quickly here. 17th of April was this replay, and we'll take a look at her, and obviously she's the number 5 horse with the blue cap there, and you could say that she had everything go her way, but the fact that she just rated nicely and then just showed a level of maturity and acceleration there, she really just looked so professional winning this Maiden Special
And
Weight.
it was a fairly soft pace up to that point when she makes her move on the leaders. I will give her credit for continuing to, after rallying against a soft pace, draw from there. The way she finished is nice. It does look as if she can improve upon it. Was against Maidens. That, for me, this can be the toughest jump for any horse.
Yes.
But I do believe that she is a top contender as well.
Another one I really like in here, just to talk about briefly, is the 11 Cavort Sprint Route 4 trainer Jonathan Shepard. I think this is a must-use in the sequence here. And you look at Jonathan Shepard, very, very an effective trainer, going long distances.
I
on the
love
turf.
that she has the benefit of a sprint here at Pimlico, too. So So now we get a chance to really see what she can do.
And she's coming out of the race behind See What Happens, who did go on to win once again on Sunday. That's back-to-back victories for See What Happens at Turf Sprint. She's been one of the better horses so far at the meet at Pimlico, and one to look out for trainer Tim Keefe. We'll move on to the 8th race, the Grade 3 Miss Preakness Stakes, 6 furlongs on the main track, and behind the likes of Miss Ella, 2 for 2 here coming out of Grand Motions barn. I do respect her. I did go to the 6 Divine Dawn as the top selection for Larry Jones. I just think that she's a really, really sharp filly. She was second behind Miss Ella last time out, but you know, she, I thought, put in most of the dirty work in that race, and the fact that she just kept on hanging on was very impressive. And today, I think she's going to be sharper and perhaps turn the tables on the cutback.
Well, Larry Jones and Kerwin Clark were, of course, the heroes of the Kentucky Oaks, and now with another filly who I know that they really regarded highly in their string of top fillies earlier in the season. They've kind of experimented with her a little bit as to try her at a distance of ground, try her on the turf. I think sprinting is definitely her game, though, so she fits nicely at the 3/4 mile distance. I still give the edge to Miss Ella. It was a tough group of horses from top to bottom in the Beaumont. She trims back from the 7 furlongs to the 3/4, so I think that she'll sit a nice kind of stalking trip here under Rajiv Mirage, and she hasn't given me any excuse to jump off her bandwagon. 2 for 2 lifetime. I just think this is a filly that you're going to hear a lot about.
I think so too. I think you're going to hear a lot about Miss Ella, and the way that she did win the Beaumont, it was so impressive. She kind of just perched there, and she did it she showed a level of maturity, I would say, that kind of exceeds the rest of the field. So I think she's one to definitely look out for. But I do think Divine Dawn put in a gritty effort against her last time out. And on the cutback, again, I think she's a better kind of 1-run, 6 furlong type of sprinter.
Worth noting that 8th race with Miss Ella and Divine Dawn does kick off a pick 4 with a guarantee as well that ends in the Black Eyed Susan, and I think that is a race where maybe you can narrow it down at least to a couple key contenders, but a really good group of fillies there for that guarantee on the pick 4. But the 9th race, but this is going to be a sentimental race for a lot of people with Ben's Cat, the hero, of course, and King Leatherbury.
And you're going against him.
I am going against him, but if I'm beat, I will be happy as well for King Leatherbury. You know, Ben's Cat came off the layoff and was just a little flat, and I think King has actually said as much too. He maybe thought he would be a little bit sharper in his first start back off a lengthy layoff for start of the year, and he can certainly improve. I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, but I really have a lot of respect for Amelia's Wild Ride. This is a horse who I saw down in South Florida at Gulfstream Park run a couple of times against arguably one of the better turf sprinters in the country right now. That's Power Alert. Power Alert rattled off a couple of wins down there. He disappointed, and then he came back and redeemed himself in stakes company over Kentucky Derby weekend. I think he's the top of the heap, and I think Amelia's Wild Ride, when he's right, is right behind him, beaten just half a length back in March in the Silks run. He threw in a clunker last time out at Keeneland. I just don't think he cared for the course that day, and I think sometimes when a horse has a kind of lackluster performance like that, it can actually be a benefit because it doesn't take as much out of them. They just didn't run. And now he's virtually freshened coming into a distance he is so effective at. If he likes this Pimlico turf course, it's going to be a great race.
This is going to be a great race, as you said. And, you know, I went with Ben's Cat not only because it has sentimental value, but because I think the race really does set up for him, too. You know, this has it's going to be a pretty lively pace, wouldn't you argue?
Oh, for sure.
We have the presence of Christmas Sky. We have Bold Thunder, who just really kind of just went out to the front end in a 5-horse field last time out against Ben's Cat and got really everything his way. Bold Thunder for Patricia Farrow. And then we also have the presence of Amelia's Wild Ride, who I think has tactical speed. And then we don't know what the 10 Brewing is going to do first time getting onto the turf here for D. Wayne Lucas. So it's going to be a lively pace. Ben's Cat clearly needed his last race coming in off of the layoff. Even King had alluded to, he said, you know, with the interrupted training schedule throughout the winter at Laurel, he was a work short leading into the race. So he did get a good foundation in the turf sprint last time out against Allowance Company. And it's hard in a 5-horse field when you have a horse like Bold Thunder to go out on the front end and catch a very fast horse.
Absolutely, and he is a nice horse. You have to give credit to Bold Thunder. Ben's Cat, you know, will be the storybook ending if he should come up at the age of 9 to win again, especially this year with King Leatherbury going into the Hall of Fame. So I will be happy either way, but hopefully cashing a ticket.
Hopefully, and I did use the one Grateful Nation at a price into the Exacta. Again, he's one that comes out of the Bold Thunder and Ben's Cat, and there was no really catching Bold Thunder on the front end. With more pace, I think he's going to get a little bit of a setup here today.
It's going to be arguably overbet, though. Ben's Cat is always bet
Yes.
heavily,
Especially here.
So, hopefully a little bit of value there if you do try to beat him.
Try to beat him with Grateful Nation or your top selection, Amelia's Wild Ride. Very classy horse, too. We'll move on to race 10, the Allaire DuPont de Staff Grade 3 at 1 1/8 on the main track. And Stop Charging Maria. Did you go against her or did you go with her?
I went against her. I actually thought that this is a race that is very even in terms of competitors, but not even in terms of pace. I thought that there is a lone speed horse, and the 6, Brenda's Way, I think can get out on the front end and have everything her own way. Now, definitely tougher company than she faced in the Geisha, but I was so impressed with the way she ran that day. She won by 10. She loves this racetrack. She's doing well. This will be her 3rd start off the layoff. Certainly a test as far as quality as well as carrying her speed the 1 1/8. But I just don't see anything that's really going to threaten her in the early stages. And if she is bold on the lead and is at home as she was the last time she ran, I think she'll be very tough.
And not to mention, if you actually watch her replays, Hevian Toledo, the rider of Brenda's Way, just gets along with her so well because she can be very headstrong and kind of a tough customer to relax on the front end. So the fact that she is lone speed, they can relax her and kind of give her her head on the front end. I think that's going to give her a huge advantage here. She is going against very, very tough competition today, but I do like the angle, lone speed. I did go to the 1 Lunar Surge as the top pick here for trainer George Weaver, coming out of two very, very unfortunate performances in the past 2 starts at Keeneland.
She really is. She's going to have to step up her game, but that last one particular was kind of a heartbreaker when she was beaten ahead with a lot of trouble. Arguably, she was the best horse in the race.
Arguably, yes. She was down on the inside rail. I wish we could show this replay because she was just super, super game and sharp. And once she finally did get a little bit of running room, she tried to sneak through, but just to be beaten by a head and against Grade 3 company last time out of Keeneland. I think she's game. We'll actually go back and take a look at her performance in the Maryland Racing Media Stakes, and that was back at Laurel on the 14th of February. And this mare, she actually runs pretty much the same way in the past 3 starts. She's always down inside, but fortunately she shook clear here. She found a little bit of running room, and you can see her highlighted there, the 1 Lunar Surge, the gray mare, coming up the rail. And again, hats off ride by Jose Ortiz in this event to kind of, the 2 horse on the lead though does really open the rail for her to just kind of slide right through. So she needs some racing luck, but when she did get that racing luck, she proved willingly that she was much the best.
Well, what was nice too was that she was sitting at 13 lengths off the pace at one point, and in contention though in deep stretch, enabling Jose to make that move. Ortiz fits her really well. I like the switch back to Ortiz here, and I think that you could see a similar type of effort. That's what she's going to need to beat Stop Charging Maria and the lone speed here. If anybody beats the favorite, in my mind, it'll either be Lunar Surge or Stop Charging Maria, who obviously loves this racetrack and gets good at this time of year. We saw her last year in the Black-Eyed Susan. She's 3 for 4 at the distance, never been worse than second at 1 1/8.
And the Black-Eyed Susan, she was arguably going into the Black-Eyed Susan in worse form than she is coming into the Allaire DuPont this year. So surprised to see both of us trying to go against her, but she will be heavily bet. And there are quality other fillies and mares in that event that she will have to be competitive against. And moving on to the headliner here, the race 11, the Grade 2 Black-Eyed Susan, and very, very competitive field here. Kaiten, who did you land on?
Well, this race, by the way, kicks off another pick 3 that will end with the Pimlico Special with a guarantee as well. So this is an extremely fun and challenging sequence of races. There could be a huge payoff because especially if the favorite gets beaten here. I went to Luminance, the horse who Bob Baffert actually was originally pointing for the Kentucky Oaks, took her to Churchill, trained her, and decided that he was going to wait and give her a little bit more time. She's continued to train really well. She draws toward the outside, which concerns me just a little bit. At 1 1/8, you don't want to give up anything, including position. But she was second in the Santa Anita Oaks to Stellar Wind. Stellar Wind disappointed in the Kentucky Oaks. She was one of the favorites. I think she just had an off day. I put her among the top 3-year-old fillies in the country, and I think if Luminance can take her workouts at Churchill and carry them here to Old Hilltop, she will be very tough. She has some tactical speed, and I don't see a lot of early speed in this race, so I don't think that's a bad thing.
And talking about Stellar Wind, she's one of my favorites as well. She started her career off locally at Laurel Park for Donald Barr, and then obviously it did ship out west. But, you know, Stellar Wind, I think she's arguably one of the better 3-year-olds as well. 3-year-old fillies, excuse me. But in the Kentucky Oaks, she did get a little bit of a troubled trip. She was back very, very far. She was very far back and then kind of lost a little bit of ground going into that final turn. So I haven't lost hope in Stellar Wind just yet. But speaking of some trouble, the 5 Include Betty did get into worlds of trouble in the Kentucky Oaks last time out. She's coming in to this race, and honestly, I think that even her back form, she has done nothing wrong for me, but she needs a little bit of pace in here. She is a deep closer. She is what she is.
That's it. You can't change her style. Drayden Van Dyke will be well prepared. He's ridden her before, and in fact, she had a nice finish with him. And I think he's learned a little bit more about her in the interim. But you can't discount her performance in the Kentucky Oaks because she really didn't get a shot to run.
She didn't. She was down on the inside rail and just, as you can see in the short comment, blocked and steadied at the 8th pole, but really had no room to run. So I'm excited to see when she does get room to run. And the shorter field in the 5 Include Betty has a lot of back class. So I did land on her, but I agree with you. The 8 Luminance seems to be a very, very talented and well-positioned filly for trainer Bob Baffert.
You and I both used a filly in here, Sweetgrass, who's worth mentioning because she's trying 2 turns for the first time. She's trained by Ian Wilkes, who, of course, was part of the camp that brought Street Sense to victory in the Kentucky Derby. And Street Sense was definitely a 2-turn horse at his best at a distance of ground. So I'm eager to see what she can do. She has to run better than she's run, even in winning, to win this race. But the 2 turns could be the great equalizer, and they have certainly pointed for this race for quite a while. So since we both used her, we should include her because she may jump up and be a key horse to have in that late pick 4.
I also want to talk about one other filly quickly, the 3 Odd Chocolate, and she seems to be kind of the now horse. They sprinted her in debut at 3/4, and then they finally stretched her out to 2 turns against Allowance Company at Keeneland, and she looked very sharp, an 82 by her speed figure for that performance, and that puts her in contention with the rest of the field.
Neil Howard is a top horseman, but he's very patient. He's very conservative. If he's willing to take this kind of a step with a filly who's so lightly raced, she's had to have shown him something special.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the 12th race. Again, this is the second leg of the late pick 4. We do have the Pimlico Special in the pick 4, the Ski Pat, and a nice allowance race as well. 6 furlongs onto the main track here, Kaiten. And I'm going to give Lady Sibilia the benefit of the doubt from chipping out of town last time out, going against Grade 1 Company in the Madison. She just went blistering early fractions there and just was a little bit headstrong for Horacio Caramanos.
You know, it's a tricky course there, both the main track as well as the turf, and to ship into the Midwest and to Keeneland at that time of the year, some horses just excel and other horses don't, but I don't think you can hold it against them. I agree with you. I think Lady Sibilia is the horse to beat. She has speed. She's 8 for 15 lifetime, and she's right at home here. So, you know, the way this race comes together, I don't know that anything can run with her early, and even if they do, I think she's still a fighter. So I look for a rebound performance, second start off the layoff for Lady Sibilia.
I think she's a fighter too here. I'm going to the 5 Lady Sibilia, but looking at maybe other fillies or mares that could pressure her, you know, She's Ordained has competed against her in the past, but I do think that Lady Sibilia has outsprinted her early, but She's Ordained actually seems to be kind of coming back into form, so she could ultimately kind of pop out sharply, but the advantage here is that Lady Sibilia is drawn to her outside, so she can pretty much take tactics where she needs to. I'm going with the home team here with the 5 Lady Sibilia in the Ski Pat. We'll move on to the 13th race here, the first half of the late daily double, 14 races here in this 2 other than allowance optional claiming event, 5 furlongs onto the turf course, and I think this is a pretty wide open race, another one that you might want to spread with a couple different horses.
I think I did, but I narrowed it down to a couple that I thought were key here, and I think we can agree on that. The 6, This Danes Has Taken, is one of them. Not a guarantee, but I did put her on top here. Second Beaten a Neck last out for High Percentage Barn, Midwest Thoroughbreds, Jamie Ness. You get Trevor McCarthy. You've got a kind of a horse for course angle who's also been effective at this distance, and who I think doesn't have to have the lead, but at the same time will be forwardly placed. Off that neck loss last time out, I think she'll be very, very tough. She fits with these. The other horse that I would throw in there that I thought could be tough is Velvet Tie. And she's similar in that she has tactical speed. She can be on the lead if it's necessary, but actually won her second in a row coming from off of it. And I thought that showed a little versatility for her. She rides a 2-race win streak over this turf course. She's undefeated in 2 starts. And so I kind of put these two as very evenly matched. And to me, it's one of those two to win it.
I wasn't really a believer in Velvet Tie, excuse me, last time out. But she proved me wrong, to be honest, and she proved the public wrong at 8-1 as well.
Yep.
Velvet Tie did get back-to-back victories. Now, arguably, she's going to have to step it up against this crew today, facing 2 Other Than Company. And again, going against winners for the first time can be very tough. Going against 2 Other Than Company can be extremely tough as well. But I agree with you with the stances taken. She was beaten by a long shot, Kids Tuition, but that filly was actually coming into the race very, very sharply. She had been going around of ground and just hasn't been able to get the distance, and on the turn back, she proved to be very, very sharp. Moving on to the Grade 3 Pimlico Special, and here's a look at Paige McKinney, a horse who I really think figures in the Grade 3 Pimlico Special here, Katen.
This race is looking back on a muddy track, March 21st, start before last, for Paige McKinney, who kind of holds the local hopes for the Pimlico Special, the H.E. Johnson Memorial at Laurel. And he had made kind of an even move down the backside, but already ranged into contention at the top of the stretch when we started the clip. And I love the way he continues accelerating, actually winning by 4 lengths after at one point trailing by about 4. It's a kind of an even type of runner. He doesn't impress you or dazzle you with the way he turns a foot or, takes off, but at the same time he gets the job done. And he is a real kind of rags to riches former claimer who has developed into one of the best horses in the country in this division. At 3rd place finish in the Charlestown Classic. I'm leery of him. I didn't use him in my top 3, but that could come back to haunt me.
It could, because I honestly do think that that Paige McKinney will love this distance. You look at his performance at the mile and an eighth and the Charlestown Classic, and again, another gritty performance. He can handle the tight turns at Charlestown. He can handle the course at Pimlico. He can handle the course at Laurel or even Gulfstream. He's just a fighting type of horse, and he's coming into the Grade 3 Pimlico Special in prime form. But Katen, we'll move on to your top selection here, and that is towards the inside, the 1 Tapiture for Steve Asmussen. Definitely has won his fair share of graded races.
Well, I like the way he's coming into the race, and this is kind of an unorthodox type of horse for me to pick here, but I just have a hunch he's sitting on a lifetime best. He was second behind Race Day, who I really respect. He ran 2 very good races, one off the layoff in the Razorback, kind of even, and built on it to finish 3rd. He was well beaten 3rd that day, but the winner was much the best. The added distance, I think, might work to his advantage here because he's a late runner. I just think he's sitting on a top effort.
And looking to the 10 Commissioner, this is going to be my top selection. Opposite ends of the spectrum here in terms of post position here. The 10 Commissioner does draw to the outside. He has tactical early speed, but you could take this as a negative. You could take it as a positive that he does draw to the outside. He will be kind of way out there in the early stages of the race, but I like the fact that with a little bit of speed to his inside, he can be tactically positioned under Javier Castellano.
He likes the distance. This is a horse who was narrowly beaten in the Belmont Stakes, went to the sidelines and has come back a little bit inconsistent, but he did notch his first win of the year in the skip away last out, and it was an impressive performance. I'm wondering if he can actually go one better than that, or if that was a little bit of a lifetime best type of an effort for Commissioner. Draws an outside post position that could be a little tricky for him, but that said, he's a nice horse, especially at the distance. I used him as well as the 2 Transparent, who's also coming off of a powerful performance, albeit against easier company, but I think he's coming into this race the right way for Kieran McLaughlin, and he's certainly bred to like this mile and 3/16.
Katen opts for the 1 Tapiture, and I opt for the outside horse, the 10 Commissioner, and the Grade 3 Pimlico Special. And that about wraps it up for Katen and myself here for this Black Eyed Susan card. Thanks for joining us on Today at the Races, and best of luck on Black Eyed Susan Day.